with a rather dramatic, unexpected appearance today by President Obama. The president is on vacation in Hawaii, and he made an unscheduled statement to the press late this afternoon. In that statement, the president decried what he called a systemic failure, which led to Umar Farouk Abdul-Muttalib getting himself and powdered explosives onto Northwest Flight 253 on Christmas Day. After praising the intelligence community for its hard work and for gathering the necessary information on Mr. Abdul-Muttalib, President Obama made a deliberate point of backstopping his Homeland Security Secretary, Janet Napolitano. Napolitano has come under partisan attack in recent days for comments she made on Sunday about the response to the attempted terrorist attack.
One thing I'd like to point out is that the system worked. Everybody played an important role here. The passengers and crew of the flight took appropriate action. Within literally an hour to 90 minutes of the incident occurring, all 128 flights in the air had been notified to take some special measures in light of what had occurred on the Northwest Airlines flight. We instituted new measures on the ground and at screening areas, both here in the United States and in Europe, where this flight originated. So the whole process of making sure that we respond properly, correctly, and effectively went very smoothly.
Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano arguing that the response to what Mr. Abdul-Muttalib allegedly did after he did it was appropriate. Once the guy's attempt failed, he was subdued by fellow passengers and then crew. He was brought into custody safely. The plane landed safely. The law enforcement and aviation security response seems to have been appropriate after all of that happened. The assertion by Janet Napolitano that things went well after the incident shouldn't really be all that controversial. Unless, of course, you twist it and take it out of context. Cue the taking it out of context in 3, 2, 1...
Maddow said the system worked. The fact is the system did not work, and we have to find a bipartisan way to fix it. I mean, he made it on the plane with explosives, and he detonated the explosives.
Through selective editing, Republicans have tried to turn Janet Napolitano's assessment of the response to the attempted bombing into some sort of excuse for the bombing happening in the first place. President Obama trying to put an end to that political trickery today by putting Napolitano's comments back in context.
As Secretary Napolitano has said, once the suspect attempted to take down Flight 253, after his attempt, it's clear that passengers and crew, our Homeland Security systems, and our aviation security took all appropriate actions.
Now we get to see if the media just keeps parroting the Republican attack on Janet Napolitano, or if they will actually report her remarks in context, and the fact that Republicans are attacking her for saying something she never actually said. With a big assist from the talking point stenographers among my friends in the media, conservatives have been racing for the nearest TV camera to try to score political points off of this failed terrorist attack. Here's another example.
I take a look at this individual who's been charged criminally. Does that mean he's going to get his Miranda warnings? Does that mean the only kind of information we're going to get from him is if he volunteers it? He's not a citizen of this country. He is a terrorist, and I don't think he deserves the full range of criminal protections of our criminal justice system as embodied in the Constitution of the United States.
That was the Bush administration's first Homeland Security Secretary, Tom Ridge, lamenting the fact that the Christmas Day underwear bomber has been indicted and will be tried in a federal court. A federal court? A real federal court? Are you kidding? Is there any precedent for doing something so outrageous? Conveniently, yes. There is an almost exact parallel to this situation in the case of convicted shoe bomber Richard Reid. Richard Reid, the shoe bomber, attempted basically the exact same thing as the underpants guy. On a cold and wintry day in December 2001, Richard Reid was armed with the same kind of explosives. He was also an al-Qaeda operative. He was also trying to bring down an American airliner. He was also overtaken by his fellow passengers. That plane also landed safely, and he was arrested. And you want to know how the Bush administration prosecuted Richard Reid at the time?
And there's word tonight that Richard Reid, the so-called shoe bomber, accused of trying to blow up an American Airlines jet, has told a federal judge he is willing to plead guilty to all 8 criminal charges against him.
Federal judge? Criminal charges? The Bush administration tried Richard Reid in federal court. just as the Obama administration is going to try the Christmas Day underpants bomber guy in federal court as well. The Bush administration even bragged about Richard Reid's criminal conviction after it happened.
In Boston, Richard Colvin Reid pled guilty to all counts in the indictment for attempting to ignite a bomb on American Airlines Flight 63 and to murder 197 passengers and crew. Today is a victory for justice and for the citizens who are vigilant in the pursuit of justice.
Former Bush Attorney General John Ashcroft bragging on the civilian criminal conviction of Richard Reid, the shoe bomber, who was head of the Homeland Security Department at that time.
Because of the vigilance of some citizens, we've certainly got some folks on airplanes, shoe bombers.
Tom Ridge. Richard Reid's prosecution was not a controversial issue. In fact, everyone now, including Mr. Ridge, seems rather happy about the fact that Richard Reid is serving out a life sentence in obscurity at a supermax prison in Colorado. Still, though, when there's political hay to be made, there's no reason to let complete intellectual incoherence get in your way. Take it from here, you guys.
I think that the administration has made a mistake by treating this terrorist as a common criminal, by putting him into the criminal justice system. I wish they had put him into a military tribunal so we could get as much intelligence and information out of him as we could.
The first and highest priority when you apprehend him is not to make sure he gets his constitutional rights, he's not even a citizen, but to get all of the information you can about where he came from, who trained him, where they are there other attacks coming, where are they coming, and if that means, frankly, you have to deny him pain medicine because it's as badly burned, I think you go ahead and do that.
Why are conservatives now arguing that this case shouldn't be handled in civilian courts? Was there something dissatisfying with Richard Reid, the shoe bomber, being tried in civilian courts and ending up in a federal supermax prison? If there was something dissatisfying about that, why didn't conservatives complain about that case before now?
If that means, frankly, you have to deny him pain medicine because it's as badly burned, I think you go ahead and do that.
This isn't about whether or not the underpants bomber guy is going to end up in Guantanamo or Bagram or a military brig somewhere or in federal prison. This isn't about that. This is about some ticking time bomb Jack Bauer-style campaign ad where torture is defined as something good and something American that Democrats are too soft to want to do. This is about sadistic torture fantasies and the effect that conservatives think those fantasies have on American elections.
If that means, frankly, you have to deny him pain medicine because it's as badly burned, I think you go ahead and do that.
Joining us now is Spencer Ackerman, senior reporter for the Washington Independent. Spencer, it's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Rachel.
The argument from conservatives here seems to be that torture, specifically as Pat defined it, denying a man his pain medication after being burned, would glean more information than we're getting right now from this suspect. I know you've been talking to intelligence sources about this case. What are you hearing about whether or not they are getting information out of this guy?
What's so significant is what you're not hearing, which is that no one is saying that I've been able to talk to, or I've heard from my colleagues, that they've had any problem getting relevant information from the would-be underpants bomber. Instead, when he's brought into custody, he cooperates with investigators. He says he's a member of al-Qaeda. And somehow, this has become a meme over the past 24 hours that we just need to torture the guy because.